What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Battery Mates podcast. I am Dirty Dave. That is the Sandman Sean over there. Sean, it is opening day. How, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you? If you say anything less than 11, I'm going to be upset.
Oh yeah, it's definitely 11. 10, 1 to 10 just isn't gonna cut it. Um, it's I don't know. It should be a national holiday.
I
Um,
agree.
so it was great. I watched baseball, all afternoon, and meaningful baseball that mattered. And it's been great. So I couldn't be more excited. Obviously the weather didn't cooperate in Philly, so we didn't get to play today. But that's all right. We just another little delay before Strider goes out and case 10-6, and the Braves win, 4 or 5 to 1.
Yeah, I love it. I love going on a limb. That's awesome. We're going to talk a little bit about opening day, discuss the Braves game, which this episode is going to release before the game starts. So you'll hear our analysis beforehand. So if you're listening afterwards, I apologize in advance. We're talking about future events. If we sound dumb, that's why. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about our predictions for the Eastern divisions of the MLB. And we're going to have a little bit of fun, man. It's opening day. So before we get into that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping work. First off, social media. We've been buzzing on social media, man. We like doubled our Twitter followers in the last week or so. We've been all over the place. So give us a follow on Twitter/X at Battery Mates Pod. Give us a follow on TikTok, Battery Mates Pod, Battery Mates Podcast on Facebook. Also, give us a follow on Twitch now. We're now on Twitch because we're going to be doing live game watch alongs throughout the season. Sean and I are both lucky enough to have free MLB TV subscriptions while also not living in the area where the games get blacked out. So we're able to watch all the games, which is wonderful. I love it. We're going to be watching games and talking with Braves Country. Give us a follow on Twitch there. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you could go to YouTube and watch this instead. Sean, why don't we give him a smile and a wave for the camera? See, look at that. That was great. And if you saw that and you don't want to see it anymore, I don't blame you. Go over to Spotify. Give us a follow there instead, and you can listen in your car on the way to work instead of having to sit down and put us on your TV like I know most of these kids do with their YouTube nowadays. I don't know what kids do anymore, but that's what I've been told by younger people that I cross paths with, and then I walk the other way because this generation scares me. Let's get into it, man. Let's talk about opening day. Let's first talk about Braves opening day because you've already given a prediction, but we have our official 26-man roster. Not a lot of surprises except for probably one. We were very excited to see our Lord and Savior Jesse Chavez return to the Atlanta Braves, and they're going to put him in opening weekend. He is on the opening day 26-man roster. Sean, do you like that decision? What do you think about our guy Jesse being an Atlanta Brave and not having to spend any time in Gwinnett or anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's getting put in the spot that they want him to be in. He's brought back under the assumption that like he's not going to have to pitch meaningful innings, typically, in the sense of maybe high leverage innings or whatever. You're not going to go to him, in the seventh with 2 on and 1 out. We've got other arms for that. So, for me, that part of it makes it where it makes a little bit of sense. So he's kind of going to be the long guy, kind of the utility guy out of the bullpen. And I mean, it's almost like he's two different players when he's in a Braves uniform. And so it's his last year. No matter what happens, he said, this is it. And so, yeah, man, I'm happy. I'm glad that he's going to be out there and that he's going to take that spot. I was a little shocked. I mentioned a couple episodes back, or maybe last week, where I felt like we were a little left-handed heavy in the pen. And so Jackson Steven did not have any options. He elected free agency whenever they optioned him to Gwinnett, but Dylan Lee did. So I kind of thought that maybe when we signed Chavez, we would see Lee go down and we'd carry Stevens and Chavez, but not the way that it worked. Stevens is elected free agency. I mean, realistically, he pitched well enough to catch on somewhere. So for me, I hope that he does. Get some big league innings somewhere, and you know. But other than that, I don't think it's anything shocking. I don't. I think it would have been more shocking to see Chavez and Gwinnett to start the season.
Yeah, and the only reason I really thought that is, he had, I think, 6 appearances with the White Sox, but when you get released halfway through camp, I mean, you miss the back end of camp. So maybe I would have thought that, maybe they think, well, he's not 100% ready just yet. So let's give him a week or two to get a couple games and just feel like he's confident. But apparently he feels good. We're never going to be upset about seeing Jesse Chavez in a Braves uniform. Even if he goes out and sucks now, it's going to be like, well, we kept on to him for too long. Oh, well, we tried.
Yeah,
But no, it's very exciting to see him back. I'm going to miss Jackson Stevens. Like you said, he pitched really well. He absolutely deserves an opportunity somewhere. There are some teams that absolutely need pitchers, whether it be starters or relievers. So Jackson Stevens is going to catch on somewhere.
right,
At the very least, like the Athletics can't use another arm.
right.
The Athletic can use another arm. Someone's going to need Jackson Stevens. So, exciting for him that he gets an opportunity to go be a major league player. He's going to bet on himself. He could have taken the safe route and said, well, I'll sit in Gwinnett and maybe I'll get my chance. But he says, no, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to go into free agency. Hopefully a team signs me and I could pitch at the major league level and show everyone what I got. So, more power to him, man. I love when a player bets on himself. Unless you're Shohei Ohtani and you're betting on baseball and games you pitch in. I didn't say that. I'm just joking. Don't sue me. That's I didn't mean it. I promise. Yeah. As far as that goes, we're just kind of getting ready now for the Braves game against the Phillies. Strider, Wheeler. I don't have to sell you on that game any more than I just did right now. It's something that the discussion today in Braves country was, Phillies fans found tweets where people were saying that the Braves should get home series to start seasons. Let's play games in warm areas where it doesn't rain as much. And Philadelphia's fans, notoriously even keeled and good at keeping their temper, decided to get upset about that. So, a rain delay in day one, not what you want, but what are you feeling? Do you feel that changes anything about the strategy for the bullpen? What changes going into this weekend now? If you're Snitker, or is it just business as usual? We're gonna do the same thing we thought we were gonna do, and now it's just Friday instead of Thursday.
Yeah, I don't see any major changes happening. It's Strider gets an extra day of rest. Kind of everybody does. It doesn't throw anything off past Strider. Everybody's still lined up to pitch the same day they were lined up to pitch anyway. So you still got Freed on Saturday, Sale on Sunday, I think is the way that they lined it up. But so I don't necessarily think you see anything different. I think you're going to see them go out and Strider's going to pitch. And, we had a fun interaction today. I did with a Phillies fan that said that the Phillies own Spencer Strider. And so,
Come on. I gotta laugh heartily at that one. That's a good one, man.
Yeah. So all because of the home run that Rhys Hoskins hit off of him 2 years ago when Strider's fastball topped out at like 95 because he was coming off an oblique. That was the one that he hit was literally the slowest fastball Spencer Strider's ever thrown in the major leagues. The one that Rhys Hoskins hit.
Yeah.
So I made sure to send him the fact that Strider is 8-0 with an ERA of 1.9 and 72 strikeouts and 8 appearances against Philly. Then he mentioned the playoffs, and so then I had to go in and tell him that he pitched like a 2.83 ERA in 2 starts against him last year, 12 and 2/3 innings. I was like, you guys don't own him. He had 1 bad start. He gave up 5 runs in 2 1/3 that year. He came back hurt 2 years ago. So that was a fun interaction. But I think you're going to go out and you're going to see Spencer Strider do what Spencer Strider did all spring training and what he did all of last season. And he's going to go down and he's going to be dominant. He's going to throw his fastball, and he's got those secondary pitches now that he can work in, and that nasty curveball. And I think we're going to see Strider do what Strider does. And like I said, I think he goes 6, strikes out 10, and I think we win 4-1, something like that. So that's my prediction. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's really good. I'm going to put you on the spot here. We didn't discuss this beforehand, so if you don't have a good answer, that I understand. But how often do you think Spencer Strider is going to throw this curveball in now games that count? He threw it quite a bit in spring, but that's working on it. I mean, do you think this is going to be used more than his slider? Is it going to be like the third pitch he uses, and he just kind of pulls it out every so often when he's got to do something different? Or I mean, what do you think is going to happen with that new pitch he has?
I think you'll see it probably a similar usage to his slider. I think it's going to be situational, but I think you'll see it probably similar. I don't see him going and throwing it 20% of the time or
Right.
anything like that. He's going to be a guy. He's going to throw freaking 85, 90% fastballs. And he's going to look, I'm throwing 99, like hit it if you can. And
Mm-hmm.
then, but he's got the changeup and the slider and the curveball. So I think you definitely think the curveball kind of takes place of what the changeup was for Spencer Strider. And the changeup then becomes that pitch that he might throw once a game, depending on the circumstances. And then you're going to see that curveball in scenarios where you think you would have seen the changeup last year. So I'm going to say comparable to the slider as far as if you were looking at percentages, just because he threw it a lot in the spring, but it worked all spring.
Yeah.
Teams in spring knew that he had a curveball to throw, and he continued to throw it, and it continued to work. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be one of those where he's going to throw it once or twice a game. But I don't think it's going to change the fact that he's going to be 85, 90% fastball. And, the other stuff is just going to throw the wrinkle in it for the hitters and give them something else to think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm in the exact same boat on that. I wouldn't be shocked if next year we have a different conversation with it, and next year instead of it being the third pitch, I mean, he could be so comfortable with it at the end of this year that it's his number two pitch. Fastball, curveball guys are tough, 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 tough to hit. So, it's absolutely not. I definitely believe it could be that. But in the meantime, he'll use it as his tertiary pitch. Number three, I pulled the big vocabulary words today
There you go.
with tertiary. And so, I'm excited to see what he does in this first start against the Phillies. And that's another big thing is now he has something that they haven't seen. So he's 8-0 in his career. And now also he has something you've never seen before. So it could work for him or against him. If if the curveball's as good as it was in spring, it's a great weapon. If he hangs a couple curveballs, that could be the difference between a win and a loss in opening day. So hopefully he just keeps it down and we don't have to worry about that. But you said you were watching baseball all day, man. What games were you watching?
Well, I started out with the Baltimore Los Angeles game, and so the Angels are going to be the Angels, and it's sad almost like because the thing is like people make fun of the Athletics, and excuse me, the Athletics haven't exactly had the payroll that Los Angeles has, in regards to their squad. But the Angels, so Trout homered in his first at bat, and I was like, this is great. A good Mike Trout and a healthy Mike Trout is good for baseball. And I was like, good, great, let's do it. Mike Trout revenge tour. Like, remind everybody that you're still a top 5 player in the league, whatever. And then there's not another starter in the Angels starting lineup that got a hit, and they lose 7-3, and it's just like the same old. That whole tungsten arm O'Doyle meme that you see rolling around every year after something like this happens. And it's just like the Angels are going to angel. So I
Yeah,
watched that game, and then I switched over and picked up a little bit of the Giants Padres game.
good game.
Uh, and then yeah, that was a good one. And then I picked up, which was the other one that I picked up? Um, I can't get St. Louis here, so I didn't see that. I kept up with the Dodgers Cardinals game
They
through
look
like
good.
StatCast. Yeah,
They look good.
but they're playing the Cardinals, so
Oh,
their pitching staff is not good. So that kind of remains to be seen. But yeah, so I kind of hopped around on the MLB app and hopped into different games and ones that were close and things like that. So, But it was good to see meaningful baseball and like have the actual best nine guys out there for everybody. It was fun.
Yeah, it most certainly was. NL East, the Mets got rained out, and then of course Braves Phillies get rained out. So it was just the Nationals and the Marlins going for it today, and both of those teams lose. So technically, the Braves are tied for first right now, at 0-0.
I will say this though. Eddie Rosario homers in his debut with the Nats today.
He
One
sure
of
did.
his patented, no doubt. He's got one of the sickest like home run trots whenever he knows that he hits one, and so we got to see that. So I was happy for Eddie. I'm glad that he's going to get to play every day out there in Washington, and I have no doubt that we're going to see one of those in like the top of the ninth somewhere down the road, just because that's what happens. And he's going to hit one and put the sword into our chest, and we'll have to eat it a little bit there. But I was happy for him
Yeah.
today to see him get that.
Yeah, no, that was very nice. Another fun stat from one of the division rivals is Luis Ariz went 0 for 6 in the first game of the season, which was, I mean, after all last year, it was, will he get to 400? Well, he's hitting 0 for 6 now. So that was just very odd to see. I was not expecting that. To hit 6 at bats from Luis Ariz and 0 hits. He came up, I think, twice in extras, too, with the guy in run and scoring position, and just couldn't get it done. So, very odd, but yeah, going around baseball, really nothing stood out. Every year, I feel like opening day, there's like one game that really like you go like either whoa, that's crazy, I can't believe that team won, or there's like a 15-2 game that you're like, geez, I mean, come on, that's just that's not even fair. Really, nothing like that this year. You mentioned the Orioles; they went 11-3. Reds, I think, got 2 home runs from Nick Martini.
Yeah,
That's MLB leader in home runs right now is Nick Martini.
yeah,
Other than that, my only takeaway from baseball games today is MLB, fix your damn jerseys. Oh my goodness. Some of these teams are wearing like blue over gray. They are like the Angels today. I think I texted you and I said it's literally taking away from my enjoyment of watching baseball how bad the jerseys and pants are. And it was way worse for some teams than others, but it's not good anywhere. The lighting in Baltimore made that really bad. Y'all got to get your stuff together, fix something, do something. I think I tagged the FBI to do something about it, and the president. So I mean, I'm going straight to the top here, man. But somebody's got to do something, man. We got to get these jerseys fixed.
at least they're not see through. I mean, at least none of them that I saw today. There was see through. The see through problem was not
Yeah,
prevalent today,
no,
from what I
it's
saw.
very good. The
So,
only wood I saw on the timeline were the bats, so that was good. Uh,
and that's the way we want to keep it.
the
My biggest, I will say this, my biggest like, and it's not even that it was a surprise performance. It was almost just kind of like a reminder. But gosh dang, is Corbin Burns good?
ooh, he's good. He's
That
really good.
dude can pitch, and the Orioles are going to be a problem. They are going to be a problem.
Yeah, I talked
Their,
about it
off-
a few weeks.
their offense looked good.
Yeah.
Their offense looked good. Yeah, they're playing the Angels. I know, so we'll hold the jury out for that. But they looked good.
No, they sure did. And I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, I think maybe we were with on one of our shows. I think they're gonna go crazy, and we're gonna talk about their predictions at the end of the show. But yeah, I'll spoil that. I mean, the Orioles are gonna be the team I have first in the AL East, and I have a crazy win number for them. I'm really high on what they're doing out there. So excited about that. Another performance I wanted to spotlight from today's game was Tarek Skubal, who pitched phenomenally against the White Sox. Copy your comments about the Angels to the White Sox and paste. But Skubal goes, I think, 6 scoreless. The 3 relievers combined to keep the shutout going. They win 1-0. If you could get 1 run and win a game, you're pretty happy if you're Detroit. So wanted to give him a quick shout out for a great start. He has a lot of people talking about Cy Young performances. So
Yeah, and to piggyback off that game specifically, Garrett Crochet needs a shout out because he pitched exceptionally well. And we talked about, I think it was last week, we were like, this just kind of came out of nowhere. It's like, hey, we might stretch him out to, hey, you're the opening day starter. Like, is this a bullpen game? What is it? And he goes out and gives up 1 run and over 6. And you think most times that's going to be good enough to get you a win.
yeah.
And so I think if he continues to do that, that's going to be a bright spot in an otherwise pretty abysmal Chicago White Sox season.
Yeah, for sure. No, I like Garrett Crochet. I know you mentioned him last week as they're in last because they're starting him opening day. But yeah, he's one of the only bright spots on that team. I really like him. He throws like 101, man. He's a fireballer. Good lefty from that tough arm angle. Guys like Randy Johnson, like Chris Sale. They have that really wide angle as a lefty. It's a whole different ball game trying to hit those guys. So I'm rooting for Garrett Crochet for sure. I hope he has a lot of success in Chicago. Um, let's if you don't have any more opening day thoughts, so I'll jump right into my stat of the week, and then we'll get to your bet, and we're gonna. I'm ready to make some money and get a prime rib dinner. But first, Sean, we're gonna play a little game. So my stat of the week this week is going to be in honor of opening day. We're gonna run through. I have some extra fun facts after this, but we're gonna run through. Man, I'm putting you on the spot. I am putting you right in the crosshairs here. We are gonna play a little game. I want you to go position by position with me and tell me who you think has the most opening day starts at each position for the Atlanta Braves. I'll go one by one here. I will tell everybody that it is for the franchise history. So this includes any other cities they were in. This includes Milwaukee, Boston, the 1900s, the 1950s, wherever you are. And the other thing is that I did kind of warn Sean beforehand. So we're I don't want to throw this all at him at once. So Sean's had a little time to think, and I think that in some cases it might help, but in some cases it might hurt. That's why I want to mention it, because there's some guys, I think when you think about it more, you'll get more like, that's the guy, only to find out it isn't. So
Right.
let's start off with the catcher position. Sean, who do you think has the most starts at catcher on opening day for the Braves?
All right, so I've got two guys that come to mind immediately. So I'm going to pick. I'm going to say Brian McCann.
Brian McCann is second on the list.
Okay.
So who's the other guy you have? I bet he's the guy in third. I would bet he's the guy in third.
Javi Lopez.
That's the guy in third. He has 7.
Okay.
First place all-time Del Crandall with 10 opening day starts at catcher.
We talked about Dell last week.
We sure did, and that's why I saw him show up, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, my guy!" So Del Crandall. I would have guessed McCann as well. So I don't blame you on that one. But he had 10 opening day starts at catcher. Double digits at catcher position that's a lot for sure. Let's do a little easier one. How about first base?
That's Freddie Freeman. I think he was 11.
11 on the money. You got it. Yeah, 11 on the money. Freddie Freeman is the number one guy there. Let's move to second base. At second base, I think I would not have gotten this one if you gave me 5 tries.
So I think this is going to be a situation like the Crandall situation, where I'm probably going to pick number 2.
Okay.
And I'm going to miss out on the number 1. Actually, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to pick an older guy because I think that he might have done it. What was his name? Hubbard? Gene Hubbard? Is that right?
Glenn Hubbard. Hubbard.
I was like,
yeah, no, that's exactly right. With 8 opening day starts. Who is the guy you had on
Ozzy.
Yeah, he's second.
Ozzy's at like 6 or something.
Yeah, he's second.
That's why I was like, but I honestly, I remember Hubbard from our doing the research on our fantasy draft is why I remembered him when we were talking about second baseman and stuff. And so I remembered he was one of those guys that was a longevity guy, wasn't necessarily the stats guy whenever we were talking about second baseman and all of that. So, but Ozzy was my initial thing, but I thought, no. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Ozzy has 6. Hubbard has 8. There's a bunch of guys with 5, including Marcus Giles. So Marcus Giles, one of the guys with 5. Let's go to third base now. I feel like this one could stump some people, or it could be so obvious that you're like, no, I got it. And there's 2 options, really. I think we both know there's 2 options.
There's only 2. Yeah.
So which one do you think?
I'm going to go with Chipper.
You're going to be wrong, sir. Mr. Eddie
It's
Matthews
Eddie Matthews.
had
Yeah,
15 opening day starts at third base. Chipper had 13. Now, the reason
13.
why
I mean,
Chipper
that's
had
still a lot.
13 is because he played left field for 4 years at opening day.
Yeah,
So, fun
yeah.
fact, 4 guys started third base during Chipper Jones' career on opening day for the Braves. Those are Mike Mordecai in 1996, Vinny
Vinny
Castilla,
Castilla.
and who's the third one? Since you're
Vinny
jumping on
Castilla.
Castilla.
Chipper Castilla. I don't know.
2004,
I should know.
2004, Mark DeRosa.
DeRosa.
Yeah,
I was thinking of him as a middle infielder. I don't know why. I think of him as a second
he was
baseman.
such
So
he was such a utility guy. That's why he's was successfully a manager with the Team USA and the World Baseball Classic. He's done everything. He'll be a good manager someday for some team.
I think so too.
But yeah, so Chipper had 13, Eddie Matthews had 15. Let's go to shortstop here. Shortstop's a tough one, man.
I'm gonna go Dansby.
Dansby's third. He's tied for third.
Okay.
He's tied for third with 6.
Okay.
I will throw you a bone on this one. The guy in first place, his last start at shortstop for the Braves on opening day was 1931.
No, I have no idea. No idea.
It's a Hall of Famer. Does that help you? This is a guy who gets mocked as a Hall of Famer. This is like when people are like, "Oh, how is Roger Clemens not in the Hall of Fame, but this guy's in the Hall of Fame?"
I'm going to know it when you tell me, but I don't.
Rabbit
know.
Moranville.
Okay. Yep.
So he had 10 opening day starts at shortstop. Second place is Johnny Logan with 9, Milwaukee legend for sure. And then tied for 6 are Dansby, Rafael Ramirez, and Jeff Blauser.
Jeff Blauser. Okay.
Yeah, nice Jeff Blauser. Always a good day to get a Jeff Blauser reference in on the battery mates.
Absolutely.
How about let's talk about left field next. This one, you know what? I'm going to say that you have a chance of getting this one. But when I tell you all this is going on here, you're going to be very shocked about it.
Okay, so this was the one that I told you I had zero confidence in.
Which is fair.
Because when I think back on it, the Braves have never really had a consistent long-term left fielder.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say somebody that probably only had somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 opening day starts in left field. I'm going to go with Ryan Klesko.
Ryan Klesko is one of the 4 correct answers for left field because there are 4 guys who have 4 opening day starts in left field, and that is the most, which is hilarious. It is Ryan Klesko, Sid Gordon, Ralph Garr, and would you believe it, Marcell Ozuna. He is also... Yeah, isn't that crazy to think Marcell Ozuna leads the Braves all time in opening day starts in left field?
Wow. I don't well, I mean, if you would have said it's 4, I would have been like, but even then I don't know that I would have thought that, because this will be Marcell. No, because Marcell didn't start at DH last year.
Correct.
So this will be Marcell's first year as the starting DH, because last year was Darno. Darno started at DH last year.
That's not true.
Is it not?
Mm-mm. Oh, yes, it was. Sorry, I got my years mixed up.
I thought we had Murphy and Darno. I thought both of them were in the lineup last year.
Yeah, I know. I apologize. 2022, there was a very surprising name of who was starting DH.
Who was the DH in 22?
Well, we'll get there because we're going to talk about DHs later.
Okay.
I can't give this away, man. Come on. But yeah, left field, those 4. I mean, that's what a group of guys, huh? Center and right field, these should both be fairly easy for you. Yeah. Center field,
it's gonna be Andrew Jones and Hank.
Yeah, it sure is. Andrew Jones had 10 starts in center for the Braves. Hank had 16 starts in right field for the Braves on opening day. This next one, starting pitcher, man. Who do you got for the most opening day starts in Braves history?
So I am going to go with. There's two that I think are at the top. This is another one like where I think there's two. And I'm going to go with the older one just because it tend to happen more. So I'm going to go with Phil Necro.
It's not Phil Necro.
Really?
So who's your other guy then?
Is it further back than Necro then?
Who's your next guy?
Greg Maddux.
It's not Maddox either. It is farther back. It's my guy Warren Spahn. 10 opening day starts.
Really?
10 opening day starts for Warren Spahn. Necro had 8. Maddox had 7. Fourth place, most opening day starts of all time for the Atlanta Braves.
Julio Teheran.
Huh?
Julio Teheran.
Absolutely, Julio Teheran. Isn't that hilarious? He has.
I knew he had 6.
He had 6. Yeah, he had 6.
Right?
That's more than Glavine. That's more than Smoltz. I mean,
he bridged us to Fried.
Yeah, he sure did.
Essentially, he bridged us, and then Fried has had the last 2, I think, 2 or 3.
It's crazy to think about that. Yeah. There's only one guy between Teheran and Fried, which was Mike Soroka, had 1 opening day start in 2020, which is the shortened year anyway.
That COVID year, which was weird year anyway, right? Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. 6 for Teheran, so he sits in 4th. But Warren Spahn, number 1. And then, Sean, a little bit of a wild card question here. You've already answered one of them. There have been 3 opening day designated hitters in Braves history. Only 3 times the Braves have used a DH on opening day. One of them is Travis d'Arnaud. Who are the other 2?
Okay, so we've got Travis d'Arnaud. Let's see. So the year before that,
I wouldn't have guessed either of these guys, if that helps.
I'm gonna guess. Is one of them Johan Camargo?
Not Camargo. Not Camargo.
I'm assuming it's the 3 years. It's just been the 3 years since we had the DH.
2020, 2022, and 23. So there's none in 21, but 2022 and 23. You've gotten 23.
Okay. So 2020.
Definitely not known as a Brave, I'll tell you that.
The guy in 2020?
Neither 20 or 22.
Okay, they're not known as a Brave.
The guy in 2020 has 51 career plate appearances for the Braves. Yeah. Yeah, that's for real. And then the guy in 22 had 36 career plate appearances as a Brave.
Pablo Sandoval?
No, that's a really good guess, though. That's a really good guess. But no, he was only here in 21.
He was us in 21, wasn't he? Yep,
he would have been, I'm sure. Wearing the panda hat around the bases, I'm sure of it.
All right, so 30-something plate appearances for the Braves means he would have gotten released or traded in 22.
Mm-hmm.
Or he just rode the bench.
Yeah, it looks like he just rode the bench, honestly. Or he got hurt. He might have gotten hurt.
I don't know.
All right. So in 2020, it was Matt Adams.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, no, more known as a Cardinal, I would say for sure, than a Brave. Yeah. And then 2022, known as more as a Giant, also as a Padre, Alex Dickerson.
Dickerson, yep, you're right.
Alex Dickerson, phenomenal. Just crazy. Here I'm going to give a little.
I watched Matt Adams hit a go-ahead home run at Chavez Ravine for the Braves in 2017. So the fact that he played for the Braves twice and still only had 50-something appearances as a Brave is insane.
You know what? You're thinking of Corey Dickerson. This is Alex Dickerson, even worse.
No, I'm talking about Adams.
Oh, Matt Adams. I'm sorry. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, he sure did, didn't he? It was actually 300 appearances. I forgot about the other stint. That's on
Okay,
me.
so
That's on
that
me.
so in that
Hand up. That's on
in
me.
2020, I don't know that I still don't know that I would have gotten it. I still don't know that I would have gotten it because I wouldn't have thought of him being with the Braves still in
No, for sure.
2020. Um,
So you,
I don't know that I would have gotten it
so
anyway.
you heard
So
that, guys. That one's not on me. I didn't force no, but he most certainly did. Yeah, I was wrong on that. He had 300, but he did start. He's the first ever opening day designated hitter for the Atlanta Braves. The most appearances all time on opening day for the Braves is Hank Aaron with 20 times he suited up for the Braves on opening day. Phenomenal. Let's move over now to Sean. Times are tough, man. I got a few dollars left to my name, and we're not going to give any gambling advice here. This is not gambling advice, but I need to hear your surefire bet of the week so I can treat myself to a nice steak dinner in the coming weeks here. I understand we have some UFC to discuss today, if I know your history with UFC bets on this show, I know that these are guaranteed winners. But again, it's not gambling advice, not financial advice, and remember to only bet what you can lose. But if I'm going to bet all I can lose, Sean, what am I going to be putting on this week?
all right, so we've got a good fight night card for the UFC this weekend. So I've got a 4-leg parlay, and so this um, I do have one. I'm just going to tell you. Oh no, I went over. I went on the rounds. Okay, never mind. So we're good because I've got a guy that I know personally fighting on this card, and I really struggle to bet against somebody that I personally trained with or anything like that. But when his fight, I did 3 of these are round projections, and then the other one is just the winner. So there's a fight between Nate Landwehr. He's out of Clarksville, Tennessee. I've trained with him before. He's fighting Jamal Emmers. I've got them at over 2.5. I think that goes to a decision. That's at minus 150. Chris Weidman, former UFC middleweight champion. He's the guy that Anderson Silva broke his leg against whenever that happened. He's working his way back from an injury himself. He's fighting Bruno Silva. I took the over at 1.5 rounds on that. That's minus 145. Vicente Luque versus Joaquin Buckley. They're 2 absolute killers. I took under 2.5. I don't think that fight sees the judges, so we're going to take the under on that. And then I've got Aaron Blanchfield winning the main event against Manon Fiorot. That's a women's fight. Blanchfield's an absolute stud, and so I've got her at minus 192. So Landwehr versus Emmers over 2.5. Weidman versus Silva over 1.5. Luque versus Buckley under 2.5, and Aaron Blanchfield money line. That is a plus 595 for $10 wins you just about 70.
Ooh, man, oh man, I'm getting the thick cut prime rib when I go. Now, of course, it's not gambling advice, but if I do have that prime rib dinner, then I'm gonna share it on social media, and you're gonna look at it and be, oh man, I could be eating that too right now.
I should have
Yeah.
done it.
Remember, don't bet more than you can
Yeah,
lose, and there's a hotline to call.
that is this Saturday night.
Oh,
So this will be coming out on Friday. That these fights are on Saturday night. So I will make sure to post uh, the actual bet also on our social medias. But that is this coming Saturday night.
cool. I love it. That means I'm gonna get that steak dinner real quick. So love to see that. All right. We have one last set of divisions to talk about for the MLB season. I didn't let today's results impact anything about what I put on here. I don't know about you, but I stuck to my guns here, and I'm ready to talk about the American League East, man. This is a very I'd say this is one of the tougher divisions to handicap for sure. I feel like every team probably could go anywhere from 75 to 105 wins, and I wouldn't be surprised. So let's start off in 5th place, man. Who do you have as the number 5 team in the American League East in 2024?
It's got to be the Boston Red Sox. Um, I just think they're behind the rest of the teams in this division. And it's less of a knock on the Red Sox and more of just how deep and talented this division is when you look at the other 4 squads. Um, so I've got Boston there. I think they needed another frontline starter. They didn't go out and get one. There's just some question marks out in Boston. So I'm going to take Boston at 5.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I really struggle with Boston to figure out why they're trying to moneyball right now, or I can't lie. I don't know what they're doing. I'm not gonna lie to you. Nothing they've done in the last like 3 off seasons makes any sense to me at all. They in 2018, people forget. I mean, the 2018 team 6 years ago, the 2018 Red Sox is one of the best baseball teams we've experienced in our lifetimes. I mean, they won like 110 games or something, 108 games. They won their division by 10 plus. They waltzed through the playoffs. I mean, they just stomped every team they took part against. Great pitching, great hitting, and they've turned that into an absolute unmitigated disaster. Um, I have a few friends that are Red Sox fans, and you can't you just have to feel bad. 'Cause you're like, what? They had all that. I mean, they had a nice young core of guys who won a World Series, and they've turned it into a disaster. They're the guys they bring up don't work. They're giving money to guys that don't deserve the money they're getting. I mean, you know, Giolito was a terrible decision when they signed him, and then he now is going to miss like at least half the season, if not all the season. So just bad moves everywhere. Boston's a disaster. I don't know what their path is to coming back in the AL East. It's going to be a long road ahead for them. But that brings me to number four. Number four, I'll jump in with my number four, and that's the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays, I hate so much that they finally decided to give one guy a huge contract, and it happens to be a guy who likes to talk to 15-year-old girls, a scumbag that's never going to play in baseball ever again, because now they're going to be even more conservative about it moving forward, and they were already way too conservative. So I feel bad for the Rays. They're selling guys. They're still better than the Red Sox, but I think there's a pretty clear gap between these two teams and the other three in the division, personally.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I've got the Rays at 4. A lot of times people that do the Rays tend to just find ways to win. Yes, but I think there's a point in which that strategy can't be sustainable. And I do think there's too much talent on the top 3 teams to not put them at 4.
Yeah. No, I love that for sure. Well, let's get to those top three then, Sean. Who do you have in third spot this year?
I've got the Toronto Blue Jays at 3. Um, they're good, yes. They're talented, yes. Um, I think they could use. They've got a couple of weak spots in their rotation. They're still working on Manoa, and he's been awful, and so
I hate that so
you're
much. I loved Alek Manoah,
I know,
man.
yeah, and so I think that they have more question marks. I hope Vladdy is better this year than he has been. He homered today, I think. And so that's a good sign. He caught some flack being the cover athlete because he hadn't played as well the last couple of seasons, but hopefully he turns it back on. They've got Bo Bichette. They've got some other young guys, but I just think that they're a little bit behind those top 2. So I've got the Blue Jays at 3.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I got them at 3 as well. I thought we were going to swap 2 and 3, but yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, Kevin Gossman, I'm a huge fan of his, but like you said, the rotation isn't the best rotation. They have some good pieces in the rotation, but I just don't think it's enough personally, especially when you're comparing to the Yankees, who even without Garrett Cole, I feel have as good of a rotation, and then they're going to add Garrett Cole. So, yeah, my number 3 is the Blue Jays. They'll score a lot. Their bullpen, besides Jordan Romano, I don't trust very much. Their rotation's fine. Too many holes in the offense, I think, though. I agree with you there. People forget that trade they made last year with Arizona is one of the dumbest trades I've ever seen. I don't know if you would agree with me with that. The trade they made for the Varsho trade, they traded away like 2 guys who played the positions that Varsho plays and are both better than him for Varsho, and it turned the Diamondbacks into a legitimate World Series team. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays struggled to make the playoffs, and then they didn't. So, I don't know what they were thinking there. I think that was a really bad trade. They should just stay out of their own way, in my opinion, because they have a good, nice little core. But number 2 is the Yankees, as I mentioned. Really good addition, I thought, with Marcus Stroman. Cole, Stroman, Carlos Rodon getting back to being 100%. Nestor Cortez, they got a decent bullpen. I like the piece. I mean, they bring in Juan Soto. You bring in Juan Soto, you're in a good spot. So Soto with Judge, Stanton can play 85 games at DH. That's great. Rizzo was really bad last year for himself. I hope he gets back to a good spot. Glaber's coming back on the up. They got a lot to like in New York, I think.
Yeah, and so this was one of those where I had to make sure I didn't allow what I watched today to impact what I did. So a few weeks back, we did my bet of the week was a long term bet. I made a bet on who was going to win each division, and I'm going to stick to my guns. And I've got Baltimore in second, and New York winning the division. And so I like Stroman. I like Soto. I like the Verdugo edition. I think Stanton is going to be better this year. He looked really good this spring, tore the cover off the ball. Rizzo looked a lot better this spring. I just think that for whatever reason, it was one of those. I even said it then. It was more so a gut thing, and I don't know. The Orioles are good, yes, but did they outperform themselves last year? Or are you going to have some of those young guys that kind of regress back to the mean a little bit? They already lost Bradish, I think was the starter that they lost. He pitched well for them last year. Yes, they got Corbin Burns. But I just liked what the Yankees did this offseason. And the other part of it, too, was I was like, I'm not going to let today impact what I went with, a few weeks ago. So I'm going to stick to my guns there. I've got the Yankees 1, Baltimore 2, but I could see both of those teams winning 95 to 105 games. Depending on what you get out of your rotations, what you get out of your offenses. Like you said, if Rizzo's better, Giancarlo Stanton's better, Glaber's better, you add Juan Soto, Judge, if he plays well, Verdugo is just Verdugo. All of a sudden you've got a really good lineup out there in New York. And so you kind of saw it today. I think their offense will carry them to some wins. They came back and beat the Astros today. And so that's how I have it stacked up.
Yeah. I mentioned it a few weeks ago, man, but I'm super high on the Orioles. I don't think there's a mean to regress back to. I think last year was their mean. These guys came up as top 5 prospects and then play like top 5 prospects. I think there's a reason for it. Adley Rutschman, I think, is going to firmly be in MVP contention all season. All these guys who they sat with through the rough years, guys like Ryan Mountcastle, guys like that who are now getting the opportunity. They're just, I think that they've taken so many lumps that they're so even keel by now that they don't care. I think the Orioles, and I said it a few weeks ago, and I'm going to say it again, I think the Orioles are going to get close to or touch 110 wins this year. It's a big number, but when you give all those young kids the taste of major league play, and you give them an off season to think about it, and you have them come back, and you have a nice spring training, they're feeling good, the vibes are really high, and then you add Corbin Burns to a pitching staff that was phenomenal last year. I don't see how the Orioles get stopped this year. I think they're going to be dominant from start to finish. I think there's a really good chance that they're lining up in the World Series this year. I think them and the Yankees are my 2 top teams, to be honest, in the World Series this year. But I have the Orioles at the number 1 for the season here, which will bring us to the National League. The division we've all been waiting for. Let's be honest with ourselves. Come on. We've done all of this buildup just to get to this point right here. So let's talk about the National League East. Last year was a runaway by the eventual division champion Atlanta Braves. what do we have starting off the number 5 spot this year, Sean? I would bet we probably have the same team in that spot.
Yeah, I got the
Yeah.
Washington
Yeah.
Nationals. Yeah, just talent wise, they don't stack up to the other 4 teams in the division, and so they're still kind of they're working through the rebuild. They've
Yeah.
still got Patrick Corbin, that big contract that's on the books. That's an albatross of a deal, but I think this is the last year on that deal, so that'll come off the books. They've got some young guys that are talented. They got some prospects that you might see some of this year. But I really think this is more of a team that is aiming for 2, 3, 4 years from now, trying to get back to that competitive spot.
Yeah.
But so I've got them at 5.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. There's really not much to add. We know what the Nationals are doing. They're the only team that is fully rebuilding in the NL East, so they're probably going to finish 5th. I think starting right away, though, now in the 4th spot already, we might have some discrepancy. Who do you have finishing 4 this year, Sean? Oh, I'm sorry. I got you in the middle of a drink.
You're good. You're good. I'm going to take the Miami
Okay.
Marlins. I to be honest, I like what the Mets did this offseason. I thought the Mets had a really good offseason considering the way last season went and kind of the meltdown that was last season, and dealing Verlander and dealing Scherzer, that whole deal. So I really just kind of feel like they had a really good offseason. So I had to go with Miami there. I think the top 3. I think it's the Mets, Phillies, Braves that are the top 3 in that division. So I went with the Marlins at 4.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think the line between teams is between 4 and is between 3 and is between 4 and 3, like you said. Where you're like, you think that the Nats and Marlins are the bottom 2, and then there's the top 3. I think there's a bottom 3, and there's a top 2, which sounds dumb, but I mean, I like the Mets. I
You know what you
agree
mean?
that they had a good offseason, but I mean, a good offseason from there, I don't think it's enough. I think that they're a 500 team this year again. Some of their additions are like, you know what? Hey, that's great. They fill holes. They don't inspire. The Mets signed like 12 guys this offseason, and like 8 of them, I was like, what? That's who they're going to go with there? But they're better than what they had last year, so they'll improve. But at the same time, you get 0 Max Scherzer starts and 0 Justin Verlander starts this year. You get nothing from those guys, as opposed to last year, where at least you had, you felt, you had a few starts from them at some points during the season. They have Jose Quintana's pitching opening day, man. I mean, we made fun of Garrett Crochet starting opening day for the White Sox. We've got to make fun of Jose Quintana starting opening day for the Mets, right? I mean, we have to. It's their rotation's still really rough. I think that they'll finish above the Marlins because the Marlins are the same team. I just think their pitchers won't be as good, and they lost like Jorge Soler. So the Mets, I think, will be better, but I'm not intrigued by them very much this year.
Yeah, I mean, and I do have the Mets 3, but I think they're probably a little better than 500. I'd say probably 85 wins maybe, but I think that the Mets have put themselves in a spot where if they play out of their minds, they can compete with the Phillies.
Okay.
If they have some of those guys that they signed, if Severino pitches well, if JD Martinez, you add him to the lineup. If Pete Alonso hits well, if Vientos improves, if Beatty plays a little bit better at third base, you still got Nimmo. You've got Lindor, who I think is going to be really good this year. I know he's had some injuries and stuff. And so I like the Mets offense. I agree with your statement on their pitching. I agree that there's a lot of question marks in regards to their pitching. But I like the Mets offense. And in the regular season, your offense can carry you more than it will in the postseason.
For sure.
And so I could see their offense being really good and overcompensating, winning some 9-8 games, 9-7 games, 7-5. Some of those you get into the back end of a bullpen and your offense, uh, can jump on some of those guys in the back end of a bullpen somewhere. So I do have the Mets 3, but I think they're closer to Philly than you do.
Yeah.
So
And then obviously Philly at number 2. Great start of
yeah,
the great top of the rotation. Number 3 starter that is our boogeyman somehow. If I have to see Ranger Suarez again, I'm going to be very upset. Great lineup. They put $700 billion into their lineup to get Castellanos and Schwarber and Turner and Harper and Real Muto, and I mean they've got people everywhere. They're a really good team. They're going to be a playoff team again. They got a good bullpen. We know what the Phillies are. Do you have an idea of what you think their win total might be this year, maybe to separate where the Phillies from the Braves in your mind over the standings?
yeah. So I would put the Phillies at probably 93 to
Mm-hmm.
95 wins in that low to mid 90s. Um, yeah, you kind of their back end of the rotation isn't quite as strong. So you
Right.
kind of wonder on that end. Um, and then you never really know. You know what a bullpen is on paper, but you don't really know what a bullpen is until you get into the season a little bit, because bullpen guys can drop off a cliff, or they can come out of nowhere and be dynamite. And so um, I think probably somewhere in that 90, low to mid 90s in win total, you know, maybe 90, I'll say 93 to 98, because I think the Braves are 103 to 107 as far as wins go. Um, I think the Braves can push for the Atlanta all time win total, which I think is at
Mm-hmm.
106. So I think they'll compete with that. But that's kind of how I distinguish them. I'm figuring 5 to 8 game difference, probably maybe
Yeah.
10 between the Braves and the
Yeah,
Phillies.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I think that Philly's rotation after Ranger Suarez has enough question marks to where I'm kind of leaning closer to 90 to 92. I think they're going to be a playoff team, but I think it's just 'cause there's so many playoff teams now. Like if this was before we had multiple wild card teams, there's only one wild card. If 4 teams made the playoffs, I would probably not pick them to make the playoffs because I'd probably pick, I think, the Giants to go over them. But I think with there being multiple playoff teams now, that I do think they'll make it. They'll get one NL West team, which I think is the Giants. We'll get the Phillies, and the Braves will win the division. I think the Braves are going to have the most wins again this year in the National League. I don't think that should be shocking for anybody who listens to our show every week. The Dodgers already today, the Dodgers look really good. And also, Mookie Betts had an error at shortstop because he just underthrew a ball. You know what I mean? So we're already seeing they're having defensive problems. That's going to come up in close games this year. There's no doubt in my mind about it. And that could really be the difference between them being a 107 win team and a 100 win team. There could be 6 or 7 games where you're like, dude, they scored 4 runs because of an error, and then they lose 5-3, and you're like, well, if those 4 runs don't count, they win that game. So to me, I think that the Braves are still a team to beat. I think that's confirmed today, even with a very dominant Dodgers victory. We'll see tomorrow. You get 2 top tier elite aces, 2 top 10 pitchers in baseball going at it. It's too small of a sample size to make any adjustments off of, but we finally made it, man. We finally get to see Braves baseball tomorrow. I know that I'm going to be at work trying to sneak to watch it myself as much as possible, but it's Friday. The weather's getting better, unless you're in the Northeast where it's raining and delaying games. It's getting warmer. Man, we're here. We made it. And I will make a special announcement. You don't even know about this, Sean. Special announcement is that next week's episode will officially begin season 2 of the Battery Mates. So season 1 is the end of last season and the off season. We're going to hit season 2. See, this season will be season 2, season 3. I mean, this is groundbreaking stuff. It's mind-boggling. We're making it to a whole second season, Sean. I mean, give ourselves a round of applause, man. Here we are. So very nice. But yeah, I mean, I'm ready to see it happen tomorrow. We got watch alongs coming. We got, games come up on Twitch. We're going to be hosting spaces on Twitter after games, jumping in, talking with fans. We're really excited to talk Braves baseball with everybody. And ultimately,
we
we're here to celebrate a World Series in
we've
a few
got
months.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, don't forget, because when this is going to come out, we've got our. It's a little bit late because we kind of gained a bunch of followers that I wasn't expecting to. But we're giving away a 2021 World Series champions pennant for 100 for opening day, and then for the 100 followers on Twitter. So simply follow us on Twitter, like and then retweet that tweet with the pennant in it, and you'll be entered in. And we're gonna pick the winner Sunday afternoon after the Braves and Phillies play Sunday afternoon.
As we speak,
So
I am pinning that to the top of our profile. So when you go, if you're on YouTube, you go to Battery Mates, you can see it's right at the top, right there. There's the
Twitter,
pennant.
you're on Twitter.
On Twitter. That
Oh, I know you're talking. You're you said if you're on YouTube, but I'm realizing now
I was
you're
showing the
showing the
camera. So
camera.
if you're listening on Spotify, go to our Twitter. It's
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
top.
yeah.
If you're on YouTube, you just saw it. Give that. What is the official rules? You have to follow us, like the post, and retweet it.
On Twitter.
There's already like 10 entrants into that.
Yeah.
So get on there. You got a
Yeah.
chance to win it. We have the March Madness still going.
I will tell you guys also at 250 followers on Twitter. Okay, I've already got the giveaway decided. All right, we are going to go with the Jorge Soler autograph baseball card, numbered out of 199 from Topps Tribute. He does not have a lot of these Braves uniform autographs on baseball cards because he was only with us for that short time. But World Series MVP Jorge Soler, his card at 250 followers on Twitter. So hop on there, like us, and then when this giveaway comes up, you'll do the same.
And at 500 followers, just so you are aware, we're going to convince Elon Musk to go up and get that baseball that he hit in Game 6 and bring it back to Earth. So I might go watch that really quick before I head off and do other stuff. It's always fun to watch that home run. But that is going to do it for this week's show. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Battery Mates. That's going to do it for season 1 of the Battery Mates podcast. We're very excited you've been joining us so far. We're excited to keep talking with y'all. We look forward to a very active season with Braves country. That is the Sandman Sean over there. I am Dirty Dave. We both like to say thank you, and we will catch y'all on the next one.